Welcome to the Clap Podcast, where we scratch your itch for film and television. We keep you up to date with the latest news and keep things fresh with our thoughts and reviews on the latest from the industry.
This week, we got a new trailer for the Star Wars series Acolyte, and Toby and I will give you our thoughts on A24's new film, Love Lies Bleeding. Stay tuned for more. Hello, and welcome to the Clap Podcast. As always, I'm Will Frost, and I'm here with Toby Yeomans. How are you, Toby?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So what have you been up to this week? What's been going on?
Uni's getting busy, I think, for both of us now. So
Yeah,
been struggling to watch as much. But I started the new Gentleman series. I know you've been watching that one.
Brilliant. Thoughts?
I'm enjoying it. It's good. I'm not too far into it just yet, but it's good so far. I feel like I watched something else. It'll come back to me. But we also went and saw Love Lies Bleeding, which obviously we're going to talk about later on the episode.
Excited for that one.
Yeah, but that's really it. I haven't been able to watch as much between my 2.5-hour lectures and, that's all busy and stuff. But yeah, how about yourself?
Yeah, I'm the same. Haven't watched too much that isn't necessarily for the podcast specifically, but I did watch Nope. So I rewatched that one. Watched the 4K Blu-ray with the IMAX scenes for the first time, which was...
Oh, yeah. How were the IMAX scenes?
Oh, incredible.
Yeah?
It was a really good one. I wasn't quite expecting it to be as good because you always kind of associate the IMAX scenes with Nolan and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I have to admit...
Put some respect on Jordan Peele's name.
Always got respect for Jordan Peele. But yeah, that was really good. Do you want to bring us into some news?
Yeah, we'll get started. So one of the big news items of this week is a new look for the Joker 2 film. That's directed by Todd Phillips. There is a trailer set to release in mid-April, and then the film's set to come in October. So these are some dates that we're finally getting for some of the news. I believe it was either in a comment on an Instagram that I saw this.
I believe it was, yeah. Todd himself posted it.
So that's interesting. We saw some of the new looks for... Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Thank you.
Yeah. And
Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
So yeah, they both looked really good. I thought it. The sets and costumes looked interesting. There's rumors it's going to be a musical.
That's the bit that worries me.
Yeah.
A little bit. I'm not the biggest musical fan.
Bad romance.
But I don't know. I'm really hopeful because Todd Phillips is a great director and he did really well with the first Joker. But I don't know. Just the idea of a musical doesn't always excite me, but there have been cases where I've been surprised and enjoyed the musical.
I reckon Lady Gaga would better keep a poker face. I got plenty more.
That was a good one.
Thank
a
you.
good one.
No,
Any more?
They'll come to me. The musical part of it will be interesting. It could be all right with a musical. It's definitely a different direction to the first film.
Yeah.
At least in that thematic sense, but it's still exciting to see it. I actually didn't think the film needed a sequel. I was happy with it as a standalone film, but it's just a matter of I'll keep my expectations at a medium rate. So it might disappoint me, and I might think the standalone film's better, or it might do really well in a different direction. I think it's good to keep things fresh sometimes.
Could I ask you, can you try and pronounce the name?
What name of?
The second Joker film? Folie à deux?
Oh. No, I'm not going to try. Folie à deux?
Something like that.
Yeah. That sounds right.
But we also got a new trailer for Furiosa,
yes.
a Mad Max saga. It is expected in theaters and IMAX on May 24th, and it's being distributed by Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Really excited for this one. We've been seeing the trailer a lot in IMAX, but they released a new trailer, and the new one was also a really good trailer as well.
You liked the first trailer, though, the original one.
I did. Yeah. I really did. And basically, all we sort of know at the moment is that it is going to be a prequel to the film Mad Max Fury Road, where the character Furiosa was previously played by Charlize Theron.
Yep.
So I'm really excited to see that one in IMAX, and just see it in general. I thought Mad Max Fury Road was brilliant, and I can't wait to see George Miller take us into this world again. I'm
excited to see it. I actually haven't seen Fury Road, so I'll have to catch up on that one.
You will, because I think it's one of those films you'll have a lot done with it.
The trailer though, the first one that we saw in IMAX, I thought it was weirdly edited. That was the only thing that I had a criticism of. Yeah, I don't know. I think it was just a bit choppy for me. I feel like sometimes, and maybe that's the how the movies feel as well. That's actually how they want it to be.
It's very stylistic.
Yeah, I understand.
It's very stylistic, and it's one of those things. It works for some people, but other people think it's a bit showy.
Yeah,
I love it. I just think it's a great time, and it's super saturated colors and just a story that is basically someone wants to get from here to here, someone doesn't want them to get from here to there.
Yeah.
And it's just the Fury Road. It's so great.
Who starred in Fury Road again? It was
Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron.
He's not in this new one, is he?
No, I don't think he is. I think it's just Anya Taylor-Joy playing the same character.
Yeah, sure. No, that's right. Speaking of what's his name? Tom Hardy. Peaky Blinders. The creator of Peaky Blinders. Yeah, he's in Peaky Blinders.
Is he?
Yeah.
Which season? Oh, he is too. Oh, he is.
Don't you shake your... I haven't even watched the show and I know this.
That's so true. He is. Why have I forgotten that? I always think Cillian Murphy. Anyway,
Cillian Murphy is the star of it.
No, he is. I just always
You ruined my flawless segue. I set that up and everything.
You did. You did so well. Let me... I'll turn back. You go.
Unbelievable. Speaking of Tom Hardy, the creator of Peaky Blinders, Stephen Knight, is developing a new show about the Guinness Dynasty?
Guinness
Dynasty?
The bear? Guinness?
Yeah, but I don't know. Whenever I hear Dynasty, I think of like more Asian, East Asian. I don't know, but I guess Guinness Dynasty.
The Guinness Dynasty?
Okay, it'll be made for Netflix.
Yep.
It's to explore the fallout and death of Benjamin Guinness, who was the grandson of the Guinness brewery founder. It's set in New York and Dublin. This is going to be a really stupid question, but I feel like you're a beer man, so you might know.
I probably won't.
Guinness World Records, same family?
No, I don't think so. No. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm assuming there's something in the meaning of the name Guinness, but no, I'm just curious because I don't know this story.
Yeah.
So, you're talking to two people who have no idea, but I'm just kind of curious that clearly the story of the founder of Guinness and obviously the grandson is an interesting story. So I'm curious to see where it goes.
Yeah, and Peaky Blinders is obviously a very successful show.
Yeah.
Is it a Netflix specific show? I can't quite remember. I feel like it is.
No. It was acquired and put on Netflix. Sure. So now they're the ones that distribute it. But yeah. No,
of course. Well, when Netflix is broadening a lot of their shows, I feel like they're going back into that category because they had Stranger Things early on. I know they got another season for that set at some point.
Yeah, the last one.
But you saw the Avatar series came out.
Renewed for season 2.
Yeah, The Gentleman, the latest one,
yes.
and now this one as well. It seems like they're going back towards shows that type of direction. But it's exciting to see a new franchise. We always love that.
Yeah.
So it will be certainly interesting to hear.
I'm just curious about the story, to be honest. I know nothing about this. Maybe I'll have to do a bit of research.
Yeah. In perhaps more negatively received news, the Crow remake has received significant amounts of dislikes on YouTube. So website Comic Book Movie reports that the hidden data for the trailer dislikes is at 78,000.
This is interesting because it's received quite a lot of reports about this, but the data is hidden.
Yeah.
So clearly there's some kind of insider that's giving them this information.
Data miners.
I know ultimately that overall it has negative sort of reviews based on the trailer, which obviously kind of means nothing. The trailer what is not the perfect indication of the film. But I just think it's interesting how this remake is not necessarily getting a lot of positive press on its release.
Do you think it is because it's a remake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those that no
one asked for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that it can't surprise us. We've seen it in the past.
Yeah.
But I am curious about why. I've seen the trailer. I didn't think it looked great, but I didn't think it looked terrible. I was just kind of... I'll see the film when it comes out, and I'll give my thoughts on it. But it's interesting that a lot of people are disliking it. So clearly, it's a film diehard fans of the original do not want to see come back in a modern setting.
But that happens with a lot of films that like they go to do a remake or even sometimes sequels, and it's just people don't receive it well. They hold the original like so close to them.
I think that was a bit of the case with like the Jaws films and stuff like that.
Yeah, certainly.
Multiple ones after that. So it'd be interesting. We'll just have to wait and see for the film, I think.
Yeah, no, of course.
So we also got a new trailer for the Star Wars series The Acolyte, which is going to be an original series for Disney+. It will have a 2-episode premiere streaming from June 4th. It is being created by Leslie Headland. So she's previously worked on TV shows like Single Drunk Female, Almost Family, and Russian Doll.
Oh, yeah.
It will the TV show will star Amanda Stenberg, Daphne Keane, and Jodie Turner-Smith. And I'm excited. So it's going to be set in the High Republic era, which is before the prequels.
Okay.
So it's before that. So it's in like the final days of the High Republic.
Yep.
And it's supposed to be about the secrets and the emerging dark side powers in the final days of this era. So yeah, it's about the events prior to the prequel trilogy. And I'm excited. I think this is a part of the Star Wars universe we haven't explored before. So I think Leslie Headland will have a lot of room to explore other aspects of the Star Wars universe we haven't seen before. So I'm excited. In the past, the Disney Plus Star Wars TV shows have been hit or miss, but if Andor and The Mandalorian are anything to go by, they can be really good. And I even really enjoyed Ahsoka. So I'm very curious about this one. And we're going to have a 2-episode premiere fairly soon. So
yeah. Is this going to be a Star Wars thing that I have to know a lot about the lore to understand?
See, I don't think it will be, because it's set before anything we've seen in terms of the main Star Wars timeline. We've seen this stuff in the video games. There were the Knights of the Old Republic and things like that. But we haven't necessarily, as far as I'm aware, seen this actually put to film at least in a mainstream way that isn't sort of something that isn't part of the main canon. So I'm really excited, because I think that's exactly right, where you may not need to know everything. There'll probably be a bit of lore stuff, the idea of the Force, the light side, the dark side.
The Force? I've never... What's that? No, I just... You know how I sometimes struggle to get into like cinematic universes where there's just so much extensive stuff to watch. And I haven't watched any of the new Star Wars content since... Rogue One, maybe?
Rogue One.
I think I watched the Han Solo one.
Right.
Just because... Donald Glover was
Solo.
in it.
No,
yeah,
you
Solo,
did.
Yeah.
We watched Solo together.
Yeah, we did, yeah. But yeah, a lot of the shows, I watched the last episode of the Boba Fett one, and
right.
I don't want to say like I confirmed that I don't need to watch a lot of these shows, but I think I was unlucky that I picked the Boba Fett one to watch compared to like the Mandalorian.
You need to watch
Andor.
Mandalorian and Andor.
Yeah.
They're the two I'd recommend to anyone who wants to get into the TV side of the Disney era.
Yeah,
absolutely. But actually, in more news, speaking of Rogue One, the Star Wars film Rogue Squadron, which was initially left in development and it was actually even removed from Disney's press schedule, it is now going to move forward with Patty Jenkins apparently returning. So she is the director of Wonder Woman. And so it was rumored that she had this... There was even a press video, and she's kind of sitting in front of a X-Wing. And they released all that. Everyone was really excited for it. And then it just kind of got left in this pre-production phase.
Yeah.
But now apparently she's back, because obviously Wonder Woman 3 is not going to go ahead.
Yeah.
Because of the new James Gunn taking
cinematic
over.
universe for DC. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. So I'm really glad to see Patty Jenkins, who's a great director.
She did the first Wonder Woman?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So she is going to come back, and I believe she's going to work on the script as well. So I think this will be really good, and kind of what you were saying, where do I need to know about the lore and stuff like that? I believe this is sort of... Imagine a Top Gun in Star Wars. And by that I mean it's sort of going to be limited to the idea of the Navy.
Sure.
And the rebels and things like that, not, the Jedi and the Sith and things like that.
Okay.
So it's going to kind of be a bit more a new area of Star Wars that we haven't quite seen before, I think.
And that could be interesting.
Or at least not been the central focus, where it might be, a captain or a commander being the central character. So I think that'll be really interesting.
No, that is interesting. I think one of the issues that like inevitably falls into like this is any cinematic universe is I feel quite often directors and writers feel a necessity to like add something for the hardcore fans, and like sometimes it's just Easter eggs, and that's fine because like I can miss Easter eggs when I'm watching something that I don't know extensively about, and then like the hardcore fans can catch it and like, oh, I loved that. But I worry that sometimes like they have to mix something into the plot to keep people engaged, where it's like, why am I watching this to actually reveal something about the greater storyline? And that's what I always fear about some of these shows. Is that like they retcon something, or they like add something that changes the way that you watch the other films, which I think can disappoint even hardcore fans to some extent. Like what was the Boba Fett one? Like, spoilers for Star Wars for those who haven't seen it. I'm pretty sure he died in the movie, didn't he?
Yeah. In the
original trilogy,
yes.
He died. Yeah, and then they bring him back. Like
with air quotes, yes, he died.
Yeah, you're just similing it to me. No one knows what you're talking about.
Yeah. That's why I had to say air quotes.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I find sometimes difficult to like re-engage with it. Because I remember when they released the Boba Fett on Disney, and I was seeing advertisements for it. I'm like, didn't he die? Like, I was confused, and I was like, oh, must be a prequel. And then I watched that last episode. I'm like, what's going on here?
You're right. Some things feel a little bit for the sake of it, but I think some of the ideas have been great, and I think the fans have been calling for the idea of the High Republic because there's a lot of potential. I know a lot of the people who love the game are really into it, and people who know the kind of the comics and the novels say that there's a lot of potential in that timeline.
Yeah.
So I think I'm really excited to see what they do with Rogue Squadron and, of course, The Acolyte, which will be streaming this year.
Once again, I'm going to be asking a lot of questions about the Star Wars lore, the games. I remember there's Starkiller in one of the games.
Yes.
Isn't he like just ridiculously overpowered so they had to retcon him?
Yeah, well, they never brought that across to
the
Disney timeline. That was still Lucas.
So not canon?
So it's not canon.
Yeah.
No.
I would love to see something with him because he was awesome.
Oh, so would I.
Yeah.
But I think that actors played voice roles in the Clone Wars series.
Oh, really? That's cool.
I think.
Yeah.
If I'm thinking of the right person, it might be.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's enough Star Wars for everyone.
Some good new Star Wars news.
Yeah. If you love the series, we'll go into other news. So we got a trailer for Rebel Moon, Part 2, The Scar Giver. Ooh. The direct continuation of the Rebel Moon film is set to be directed by Zack Snyder again, and it will be available on Netflix. The first one was not critically acclaimed, and both films were created back to back. Now,
It was mixed.
I saw something that Zack Snyder has said, and I want to actually catch your opinion on it because it's pretty funny. He said more people probably saw Rebel Moon on Netflix than people saw Barbie in the movie theaters because of Netflix distribution model. Do you agree with that?
I think he might be right in that more people saw Rebel Moon on Netflix than people saw Barbie in theaters. But Barbie has now come out on streaming and video on demand, so I don't think more people have seen Barbie.
Yeah, no.
But I think more people saw Rebel Moon in Netflix than Barbie did in the theaters. Yes.
You still reckon? Because Barbie did massive runs in the theaters. And also, I don't know how they're collecting the data. Is it how much watch time do you have to get through before they actually count it?
So this is interesting. I've heard that apparently Netflix assumes there's like 2 viewers. So say you're watching something on
that's
TV,
what it was, yeah.
There's 2 viewers minimum sort of watching it, right? And I think that's where the lines can be blurred because, is that reliable then? Because you're assuming there's at least 2 people watching it.
I don't think it's a bad assumption to make because you have a lot of people who will watch just by themselves. You have a lot of people that will watch with a partner.
I watched it with a friend.
And then you'll have a lot of people who watch it as a family. And I'm not saying, I don't know the statistics of how many people watch Netflix with their whole family versus by themselves. So average out to 2 people. But I can see why they make the assumption of 2. But I still think it's an interesting claim that Rebel Moon, which was, I don't want to say it was hugely talked about to the same extent as Barbie was. Especially when Barbie was doing runs in the theaters and Rebel Moon was available on Netflix. What was dominating the conversation?
So I think he's right if you're using the Netflix model of calculating it that there's, at least 2 people watching it at any given time, and things like that. But I think I don't think I agree with him that more people have seen Rebel Moon than Barbie. But I know that's not what he's saying.
Yeah.
But I think that would be where I'd limit it, where if anyone interprets it in that way, I think that's false. But I understand what he's saying, that more people probably did watch Rebel Moon because it dropped on streaming. And I think that's why a lot of filmmakers, and especially even indie filmmakers and stuff, want to get their things on streaming because it's more available for people to watch.
Yeah.
You're going to get more eyes on the screen because as we've kind of seen recently, don't get me wrong, theaters are coming back, but they're still, you're not getting the sellouts unless you go to something like opening day IMAX, then you're kind of used to.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Other news, we got an official title for Venom 3, which will be called Venom: The Last Dance. It's potentially the end of the trilogy, and it's expected in October. It will be directed by Kelly Marcel, who previously co-wrote the other 2 films, and it will actually be her directorial debut. So congratulations to her. That's exciting. From writer to director.
Yeah. She clearly has a vision for it, and she's been a part of this universe and these set of characters for so long. And she's probably seen the highs and lows of the series, the things that have been critiqued, where directors have done really well, which is sort of balancing this idea of comedy and action. I think as much as a lot of people wished Venom went in a different direction, maybe more of a harder rating and a little bit more on the violent side. I think for the tone they were trying to accomplish, they did. And I think if she can balance that well and maybe lean more into the action side as well, it could be a really successful film for her.
Who starred in the Venom films again? Do you remember?
Wow. Okay. Mr. Hardy.
Mr. Hardy.
Mr. Hardy. That's correct.
I thought the first one was good. I'm not a huge enjoyer of the franchise to the same extent as a lot of people are. I also have Sam Raimi's 3rd Spider-Man film in the back of my mind for my Venom reference point.
That's so true.
But yeah, I don't know. I'd love to see Venom versus Spider-Man again. I think that's where I would love to see it.
Weren't they kind of teeing this up with all the post-credit scenes and all that? I mean, we don't know what we're going to get. It's called The Last Dance. That's all we know. Who knows what they're going to do?
I feel like The Last Dance. You're so British.
I knew that was coming. I saw your face.
I had to process it for a second. I was like, why? Am I going to say it weird? No, The Last Dance. I feel like it insinuates that it's dancing with someone they've danced with before.
Maybe. Or maybe it's sort of referring to the fact it's the last
time that they are together.
Venom will be together.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. But no, that's fair. Anyway, it's interesting. If you enjoyed the Venom franchise, be excited for that one in October.
I think even though people have their criticisms of it, I think I enjoyed them enough to want to see a conclusion to the trilogy. I really do. I want to spend more time in the world with these characters, and I just hope if they bring in a really cool villain, it could be a great film.
Madam Web? Huh? No,
right.
Not that one.
Well, in major news this week,
yes,
this has been a massive talking point. According to The Sun, Aaron Taylor-Johnson has reportedly been offered the role as 007.
Ooh.
Wow, taking over from Daniel Craig.
Yes.
Now, we should note, there have been no official comments from Eon Productions or Aaron himself. So there's been no official statements, but apparently a source told CNN he has not been cast yet, and that some insiders are saying the rumors are not even true. But apparently, the unnamed source of The Sun newspaper told them that the job is his if he wants it. So it'll be very interesting to see if these rumors are true. Obviously, we've seen Aaron Taylor-Johnson in some massive films recently, including Bullet Train, The King's Man, and Tenet. But he's also going to star in The Fall Guy with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, as well as Kraven the Hunter later this year. So he's already got a massive set of films coming out.
Yeah.
I personally think he'd be a great choice.
He would.
A great choice.
Yeah.
If this does occur and it happens to be true, I'm all in. I think that's great. But I also want to note to listeners and to you that this is very much rumors at this stage.
Yeah, it's I'll be excited to see him. You know, I think he's a sexy man. But yeah, he is the right direction for it, I think.
Yeah.
He's a bit more like slick than Daniel Craig's Bond will be, I reckon.
That's a good point. And obviously younger as well.
Yeah, younger. Yeah, Daniel Craig's, I loved his Bond. He was like very brutal. And I thought the direction the films that he was starring in went was fantastic.
So good.
So it will be interesting to see what they do with Aaron Taylor-Johnson. Do you reckon they go younger? I reckon they might do prequels.
So this is what I wanted to ask you, right?
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know how No Time to Die ends... Spoilers ahead for the next 1 to 2 minutes. But it doesn't end well for Bond, as we know.
No.
He dies. Yes, he does.
Yeah.
But of course, there was a card at the end saying Bond will return. So they always planned on him coming back.
Yeah, the rumors were that they were going to bring someone else to take the 007 mantle, is what I was hearing.
That's true.
The other one was like he had a child. That's a Bond last name at the very least. So there's lots of directions that they could have gone in. I can't remember what was the child. The child was a daughter. Am I?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah.
So I should ask you then. Do you think this is going to be a replacement of James Bond or a replacement of 007? I mean, we know nothing at this stage. People are throwing rumors out online, but truth is, Eon have not said a thing.
Yeah. I don't even know what prediction to make because it's a difficult thing for them to have done. I'm happy with the conclusion that Daniel Craig's character got.
Yeah.
Obviously, they want to keep the franchise going. It's huge. It's some of the best spy. It probably is the best spy franchise out there.
Yep.
Big statement, but I think it is.
Oh, for me, hands down.
Dance, the British. Yeah, he
I
thinks so.
love James Bond. You know this.
Yeah.
I love it.
So obviously I want to see it continue, but the direction in which they can go with a dead character is obviously hard. And I feel like the good thing about a lot of Daniel Craig's those film directions, they weren't like going to the outlandish science that like the older Bond films were. Like they're not going to have some reverse death ray that brings him back from the dead, but changes his face and body physique and accent and all that type of stuff. But like they could do that.
I don't think they will.
No, I wouldn't be surprised if they do prequels, as I said, because it's a younger cast.
I agree.
So they could do some earlier films, but then
I think I'd be very happy if Aaron Taylor-Johnson, and I know this is what I was gonna say, given the the potential casting of or the offer of the role to Aaron Taylor-Johnson, I think they're definitely looking at recasting Bond. I think it's the character of James Bond, not 007, the mantle.
Yeah.
If I was doing it, again, I'm not, but I would rather...
They haven't asked you yet?
They haven't asked me, actually.
It's a shame.
I'm probably second. Aaron probably just nudged.
To play, I thought you meant to like direct. You're going to play Bond, are you?
I'll do either.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not fussy when it comes to James Bond.
Give me your martini, but stirred.
I'll be the caterer. I don't care. Get me on a Bond set. That'd be incredible. By the way, no hate to caterers. That was not. I'm just saying, like, I would want to be on that set doing any job.
Yeah.
But I think that if I was to do it, I'd rather a different character took over the mantle.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think that's how I'd want it, because I love the end that they gave Daniel Craig's Bond. And I think we've had this same character of Bond for so many years.
Yeah.
I think I would love to see someone else take over in the same universe. Keep the same M and Q and those characters, Moneypenny, to make it still feel the same.
Yeah.
But I also understand that James Bond's so iconic and beloved. I think he's a great character. Yeah. But that's how I personally think it should be done. But I would love to see Aaron Taylor-Johnson play Bond himself as well.
Yeah. I want to hear a British accent now. You said you're going to play Bond. I need to hear it. Go.
Well, do I not already have one? I said dance.
You said dance, but everything. You're Australianised.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
That was barely British.
Oh, come on.
Oi, mate, give me a martini.
We should do it. Yeah. No, we should change it up. Well, we've had an Australian Bond, but we should do one that's not doing a British accent. We should do one that's doing an Australian accent.
What if they call him Bond Eye?
That was great.
Thank you. Going into a little bit more mysterious news from the Bond casting. I mean, that's also still uncertainty, but this one, a lot more uncertainty. New Ryan Coogler film starring Michael B. Jordan is set to release March 7th, 2025. But as for the information with the plot, genre, and the remaining cast, it's left mysterious. There are some rumors that it will be a thriller piece involving vampires, and maybe drawing on inspiration from anime.
Interesting. I mean, I believe that with Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, he loves his anime. Yeah. So that one's mysterious. It could be very good. I'm trying to think of animes with vampire. There's Vampire Hunter.
Yes.
So yeah, there's lots of animes
Is the
involving.
last Witch Hunter based on anime?
Oh, I don't think so.
No, I might be wrong. Sorry, I thought maybe it's a book or something.
Yeah,
that's why I'm getting confused.
There's a lot of vampires in anime.
Right.
To be fair, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, for those in the know.
Just realised I don't think the last Witch Hunter even has vampires in it. I don't know why that popped
maybe.
into my head.
But yeah, that'll be interesting. Yeah, it is very mysterious for the time being, but I'm always excited to see Michael B. Jordan back on the screen. We're talking about some very attractive men today. But yeah, it's interesting, and Ryan Coogler to direct as well.
That's the bit that excites me. Ryan Coogler is a terrific director. I mean, the Black Panther films alone are stunning. Yeah, and of course, anything Michael B. Jordan does, I'm in for.
And they're working together again as well. And I thought Michael B. Jordan in the first Black Panther was fantastically.
And the first Creed is an incredible film as well.
Yeah.
And we've seen them work so well together with that. So I'm absolutely all in on something with Michael B. Jordan directed by Ryan Coogler.
Yeah, do you think it's interesting that Michael B. Jordan's not directing again, though? Because he did the third Creed.
Yeah, maybe this is a project that came from Coogler.
Coogler, yeah.
That's what I mean. I think that's where it would come from, that I see Jordan directing again, but maybe this is not his idea or his necessarily, something that he envisioned creating.
Sure.
But I absolutely see, I'm sure we'll get another Creed or whatever other franchise he goes on with, because he was even in that Tom Clancy's Without Remorse as well.
Yeah, of course.
And I thought the rumors were they were going to go forward with sort of looking at the Tom Clancy books.
Yeah.
But so whether he's got some kind of future in that one, I don't know. But he's definitely got some roles that have a lot of like future opportunities, and of course just even new stories he could absolutely take and do something really great with them.
Yeah, no, it does sound good. I'm going into a little bit more distant news from what I've been told, but I thought that given that Frosty and I are essentially the Sherlock Holmes of podcasters.
Oh, we are. Yeah.
We've got a bit of a mystery to solve.
Oh.
So in a recent interview, Dune star Rebecca Ferguson called out an anonymous co-star from a past film that was so difficult to work with, she had actually cried. She has called this mysterious individual an absolute idiot. And funnily, The Rock has quickly jumped to clear himself as a suspect in a tweet, and he has said, "Rebecca was my guardian angel on set. Oh, no, sorry. My guardian angel sent from heaven on our set. I love that woman. I'd like to find out who did this."
What film was that? I'm
Hercules.
Just trying to remember.
They did Hercules together.
Hercules, of course it was Hercules.
Yes.
So, we have a mystery to solve.
Yeah, so
let's do this.
We've I've gone through the witnesses. I've canvassed the witnesses, as they say.
And we should say, we love Rebecca Ferguson. We're going to get to the bottom of this.
We'll solve this for you. And I've created an extensive list of suspects. So I'll tell you the clues first, just so our listeners can also take their guess.
Yes.
This is what I've used to run down the list. So she said in the interview they were the number one on the call sheet.
Okay.
Which really narrows it down.
Does.
I suspect it was a movie because of the nature of what she said. It didn't sound like it was a longer term thing. She's done some series in the past. So that's why I don't think it is a series.
But that is ambiguous, though.
It's ambiguous.
That.
It could be. I just think that the way that she kind of said it, I feel like it wasn't a long-term experience for her.
But as detectives, we leave no stone unturned.
No, it might well be, but for the time being, I'm running it down to movies.
Sure.
And then the final clue, which I think gives me the answer to who the suspect is that Ferguson is willing to call this person an absolute idiot.
Right. Okay.
So I'll tell you what I've done. I've ruled out all the series, as I've said.
Yep. And
then some of the movies that she has starred in, I've removed those as well. So she starred in things like Drowning Ghost, A One-Way Trip to Antibes. She was the star of these films. She would have been first on the call list, so I don't think these are the films that she's in. Other films like Us, there's she was probably also first on the call list. I just don't think that these are necessarily ones. So I'll go through some of the major films. There's The Greatest Showman, who the first on the call list would have been Hugh Jackman, our Australian darling would never have done anything.
No, we love Jackman.
Yeah, so he was also in Reminiscent. So there's two films they've done together, but we don't think it's him.
Interesting. Not many people have seen that. That is one I have actually seen.
Yeah. Where am I next? The Florence Foster Jenkins. So this had Meryl Streep.
It did.
And Hugh Grant.
Mr. Grant.
And I think those two would have been above her on the call list. I can't see Meryl Streep doing this. Also, this is a male crime. I've done the psychoanalysis for this. This is a male crime. But Hugh Grant is an interesting one. I think he has like the authority, perhaps. I also just don't know if I see him necessarily doing this.
I just want to say, I don't want to pass thoughts and feelings towards people we don't know.
You're playing good cop.
I'm playing good cop because honestly, these are incredible actors and talents that
I'll be bad cop.
Anyone would love to have in their films. So I should say I'm probably not going to try and pass judgment on actors and actresses that I don't necessarily know personally.
I will. I'll find justice.
All right. I'm here with Batman. I'm like your Robin sidekick in this. But I'll just stand there and watch.
Yeah. Hercules, The Rock, I think he's cleared himself. I think if he had said something like that and it actually was him, we would have found out very quickly. Like, also, he just seems like a chill enough guy. I should say,
I agree with you on that. Yeah,
I think he's just a chill guy. I feel like you wouldn't necessarily do it. As I said, it's a male crime. I think Emily Blunt, she was on The Girl of the Train. I think she's innocent as well. We're going to my two... Oh, actually, I'll clear some other people real quick. Dune, little Timmy did nothing. He's clear. Mission Impossible, I think a lot of people are pushing towards Tom Cruise. I think he's a good sport on set, and she's done a lot of films with him that I think if he was that difficult to work with, she wouldn't have done it.
It's not Cruise.
And they seem to get along. So I'm clearing Tom Cruise. You're welcome, Tom. We'll get into my two major suspects here. So we've got Dr. Sleep with Ewan McGregor. He's one of the top suspects. And then the other one is Life with Jake Gyllenhaal. So these are my two major suspects. I can see Frosty's looking at me with his lips tied together. And I'll tell you who I think it is. I'll clear the first name first. I don't think it's Ewan McGregor because he's not enough scenes with her to justify what she said has happened. Like, they have like 2 shared scenes together. And like, they're not very... They're intense because it's a horror film, but like not intense in the way that I feel like that type of thing would happen. Okay. I could be wrong, but I just don't think there were enough scenes together to justify it. Realistically, the reason that I say to Jake Gyllenhaal is not for any like me passing judgment on Jake Gyllenhaal. It's because of what I said at the end there. The final clue: she's willing to call this person an absolute idiot, and the reason that I say it's Jake Gyllenhaal is because she's now got the Swifties on her side. We all know that Taylor Swift and Jake Gyllenhaal's past. She's got the Swifties on her end now. So that's why I said that final clue was very important. So I've solved it for you.
But there is a connection we're missing. We're forgetting.
What are we missing?
Denis Villeneuve really enjoys working with Jake Gyllenhaal. We've seen him in at least 2 movies at this stage. And of course, Rebecca Ferguson stars in both Dune films, directed by Denis. I mean, it's a little bit like one of Denis' most worked with actors is Jake. We're forgetting that connection. I'm just throwing that out there, not passing judgment. I'm just saying.
Justice. No.
But clearly, Denis sees a lot of value in working with Jake, and I don't see Denis allowing something like that on his set.
Yeah, well,
so I'm just saying.
Denis didn't answer my phone call when I tried to ask him about it. So
he's busy at the moment.
I think
he's writing Dune Messiah,
it's
and he's
suspicious.
on the press tour.
But no, that's just to clear things up. I wasn't actually trying to like pass judgment on any of them. No. I just think it's funny to jump on the Swiftie train.
Well, you're not the only one. The internet is going wild.
Yeah.
For
so
this.
People are loving it. I also will just say, in all seriousness, it's a shame that such a fantastic actress has had to experience this on set by a co-star.
That's probably what we should say. It is. As much as we're playing a bit of a game with it, it's terrible that something like that would happen on the set, and we hope that something like that never happens to her or anyone else on a set like that.
I think she's in such a position now that hopefully that's something that she doesn't have to deal with. That also being said, no actress or actor should have to deal with this type of behavior. Exactly. It should be a safe set all the time. No one should have that type of control and power over another person. And it's just a shame that she's had to deal with it. I think she's doing all right for herself now. Hopefully she doesn't have to work with this person ever again. But yeah, we were playing around with throwing out suspects and stuff like that. But for Ferguson's sake, we hope that things are better now.
Yep. And for our last piece of news this week, quite a major one. We've been waiting for this for a while, but this is fairly recent as well. We got a first look at Alien Romulus, which is going to be in theaters August 16th. Yeah. We got a teaser trailer. I'm really excited for this one. Excited to see what Fede Alvarez does with it. And yeah, that's kind of all there is to say. We got a new trailer. Looks really interesting.
Very short trailer.
It was a teaser.
Yeah.
It was a teaser for what I'm assuming we'll see another trailer.
Yeah.
But I'm glad. This is one of those films I don't want to go in knowing exactly what it's going to look like, who's in it. I want to go in.
I think it's got an alien in it.
Wow, spoilers. You've just ruined it for everyone.
Damn.
Because the other, 4-5 films in the series.
Well, it's not like it's called Alien.
Yeah. Well, there's that too, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited. I like the Alien franchise, so.
It's produced by, help me out here, the original director.
Is Ridley Scott?
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
Pretty sure.
I didn't know he produced it.
I'm pretty sure.
I know it's directed by Fade, but I didn't know.
Yeah,
if I'm saying his name right.
I'm pretty sure in the trailer it said it was directed by him.
Oh, that's great.
It had his name at some point, which is always a good thing to attach to you. And if he's approving of it, then it must be pretty good, because obviously the first Aliens rejoiced for being a really good horror film.
And it is produced by Ridley Scott. You're right. You're correct.
Look at me knowing things.
Director Fede Alvarez, expected August 16th. Very excited for that one.
No, that will be good.
Horror sci-fi. Got lots to look forward to. We're just going to have a quick break now. Stay tuned to hear our thoughts on Love Lies Bleeding, the new film from A24 starring Katie O'Brien and Kristen Stewart. Stay tuned for more. Thanks. Hello and welcome back. We will be giving you our non-spoiler review first of the new A24 film Love Lies Bleeding. This film is about Lou, who is a reclusive gym manager who falls hard for Jackie, played by Katie O'Brien. She is an ambitious bodybuilder who's heading to Las Vegas to pursue her dream. Their love soon leads to violence as they get pulled deep into the web of Lou's criminal family. This film stars Kristen Stewart, Katie O'Brien, Dave Franco, Anna Baryshnikov, and Ed Harris. It is being distributed by A24, and it currently sits at $2.8 million globally at the box office. And it's directed by Rose Glass, and it's her second feature film.
Yeah.
So, Toby, do you want to kick us off? What are your thoughts on Love Lies Bleeding?
I enjoyed it. It was a different direction to what I expected it to be. I'm not sure if the trailers led me astray, but certainly not in a bad direction. I still very much enjoyed the film. Acting performances were great. I thought a lot of the scenes were really great. You talked about the sound design when we walked out. I agree with you. I'm just stealing all your points real quick.
No, it was absolutely stand out.
Yeah, so there was some fantastic elements of it. I'd recommend watching it. I thought it was a good film. It's violent, MA15 plus for Australian viewers.
Yes,
is it R?
It's R in America.
You're Americans. So yeah, not one you bring your children to, despite us watching it in a...
Shall we tell this story? So many of you actually voted on our Instagram page, and for those of you who don't follow our Instagram, we recommend it because we sort of have some interactive elements there. But we actually posted a photo in front of V Jr. And we asked people to say what film we think that everyone thought we were going to go see, and there was a resounding answer for Kung Fu Panda 4.
Yeah.
So I'm sure many of you are surprised while we're here talking about Love Lies Bleeding.
Yeah.
And we're here to tell you that actually Village Cinemas was doing a bunch of construction on some of their cinemas. This is the one at Southland. And we got put in the V Junior cinemas to see probably the most violent film I've seen in a long time.
You just revealed our location. Everyone's going to know where we go to the cinemas now.
Oh, we're going to get swarmed by fans
Yeah.
of the Clout Podcast.
That's it. They'll see us walking out of V Junior. Frosty comes out of the slide to a pack of people.
Yeah. And we should say we tried to go down the slide, but it was blocked off.
It was blocked. I think there was a weight limit. I wouldn't have been able to get down it, but yeah, it was blocked off.
But just a fun experience that for those of you who guessed Kung Fu Panda, we are sorry to tell you it was Love Lies Bleeding.
Yep.
An incredibly violent A24 film, not the light-hearted, child-friendly film of Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah.
Sorry. Continue with.
No. It's very funny that we just watched it in like a cinema where like there's beanbags in front of us.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting viewing experience. Also, one of the annoying things that I will comment on the V Junior, there's a light that they don't turn off on the back so kids can play.
Yes, and the speakers had a hiss going along the entire time.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
They were quieter though.
I think it was quiet. I think that I don't know. Again, we could be speculating, but I don't know whether V Junior's potentially a little bit quieter.
I reckon they make it quieter to not hurt the kids' ears.
That's what I think, and they clearly hadn't turned it up for this film, and so it was a little bit on the quiet side. Again, we're not criticizing the cinema here. We're just saying it was a different experience to your normal cinema experience because it was in a different cinema that I've only been to once for some animated film years ago.
Yeah, but no, it was a good watch. I thought Katie O'Brien, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she looked fantastic. Like with the bodybuilding part of the film was like she did fantastic work to get into the form that she did.
Standout performance by her in general. She had a lot to do in the film. You had to believe her as this absolutely sort of obsessed and by the love that the two characters have, Kristen Stewart and Katie O'Brien. And I thought she did a tremendous job because Kristen Stewart's a huge actor.
Yeah, massive.
Academy Award nominated, all of that.
Twilight.
But of course she played Spencer in Spencer. So that was kind of the last massive role she did. And Katie O'Brien, who has come in and is not unknown, but definitely a big role for her. And she absolutely did so well with Kristen Stewart. Their chemistry was fantastic.
Yeah, and I got some fun facts for Katie O'Brien, just for those who are interested in the working out elements of it, like how she got into form. So she's actually a martial arts instructor and a former bodybuilder. So the role wasn't obscure to her. She understood the industry, and she's been doing like bodybuilding for 10 plus years. So it's not something that she's rushed to get into this form. Like she's taken her time, and she looked fantastic. And
I think that passion that you have for the world of bodybuilding, because you had to buy that in Katie's character, where you had to believe her that she is obsessed with becoming this bodybuilder. And you totally get that. And you can see in her eyes, she has that passion and that hunger. And that probably comes from her experience being that type of person.
Yeah. And one of the actually interesting things that I found when I was trying to research her exercise and such, she actually has Crohn's disease, which for those who don't know, it would make it very difficult to be as active as she has been. So Crohn's disease is a type of inflammatory bowel disease, and it can affect any part of the gastrointestinal tract. And some of the common symptoms are like abdominal pain, diarrhea, fatigue, and weight loss. And Katie experienced like sores, night sweats, and she was actually only diagnosed in 2020. So it's something that she's dealt with for a lot of her life.
Yeah.
And she was quite sick with it. But one of the really interesting things is the first day she was filming this film, she got called by her doctor after doing a full medical, which revealed she had scar tissue in her small intestine, which could have led to an obstructed bowel. So she had some like very bad health issues going into this film. And she actually really used a good analogy for those who don't quite understand the severity. She said the twisted intestines is like a twisted garden hose. So I feel like I don't need to reveal any more about how that could be quite painful and difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
Luckily, the surgeon said as long as she wasn't in pain, she could finish filming, which she did. She also went on to film Ant-Man right afterwards before she had surgery to fix it all up. So luckily she's okay in that sense. But she pushed through some very severe health issues to get this film done, and all the respect to her for that. And then in the more exciting thing is if you want to know her common split, so you can get as shredded as she is, she trains chest on Monday, back on Tuesday, hamstrings on Wednesday, shoulders on Thursday, arms on Friday, and legs on Saturday.
Thank you for that. No, that's
I
great
got you.
to know.
I did the research. She said she trained every muscle group twice a week for this film. So,
and for those of you who haven't seen it, we are emphasizing this because it's a major part of the film.
Part, yeah.
You know, she literally her character is a bodybuilder, and it's a major part of who she is, and so obviously you had to believe her in that role, and these things are all so important in relation to her performance, and it all comes through superb.
It's also really interesting. I feel, at least for me, it's interesting to know how people train to get into the form that they have for a lot of roles. Like you see a lot of, obviously, actors and actresses look fantastic for a lot of their roles. And I just feel like it's good to have some transparency about how they get to those positions.
Yeah.
But I think for Katie O'Brien, in this sense, she's a bodybuilder. She's been a bodybuilder for 10 years. It's not too suspicious when she's absolutely yoked for this performance. So all the power to her. She looked fantastic.
Yep. So I'll just say I really enjoyed the film as well. I thought it was really good. Great entry from A24 into their massive catalogue of other stunning films. I thought especially the direction by Rose Glass was really good. There are a lot of incredible production elements that I noticed the whole way through and that only elevated the film. I should say there are little elements like the costume design of Kristen Stewart's character, Lou. She actually, after they engage in sort of violent scenes in the film, she starts wearing a little more red. And in the start of the film, she was wearing a lot of neutral colours, greys, blacks, whites, things like that.
Or a lot of blue in the start as well.
And blue, exactly. Kind of showing that she's a little bit neglected, and you learn about the reasons for that with her childhood. But it sort of showed that she was quite isolated as a person, and her clothing gets sort of more and more vibrant as she starts engaging in the certain things that happen in the film, and she starts getting more and more involved. But of course, being with the violence, there's a lot of symbolism with the red that she wears. At one point, she's even wearing a red tracksuit after quite a violent scene. And I just thought there were a lot of amazing elements that Rose incorporates like that honestly just elevated the film further. The cinematography was really great. Set in 1989, and I thought that it captured that time period so well. I actually looked at some old like bodybuilding footage of like the 1980s, and I just thought they captured the clothing and the dynamic and the vibes so well. She uses a lot of surreal elements in this, and we'll get into the specifics of those in the spoiler section. But I just thought, for those of you who are going in expecting sort of a run-of-the-mill noir thriller, it does have some surreal elements beyond that. A little bit like, do you know what it sort of reminded me of? Denis' film Enemy, in that it incorporated some visual motifs and metaphors and surreal elements that elevated the story even further, and sort of showed feelings through visual metaphors as opposed to just sort of telling you or anything like that. And that came across through performances where they reenacted those surreal elements so well. I also thought it had a lot of noir elements in a great way. It's a great noir film. So,
do you just want to just elaborate for some people who might not know what noir is?
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. It really is. It's, you know, those films that there's a lot of high contrast, normally set at night, rainy.
Yeah.
A lot of detective films sort of have this element. Lots of smoking. These are sort of key symbols of a noir film. And in this film, it was shown a lot with the red tinged scenes with the flashbacks, and as well as a lot of it being set at night. So for those of you who kind of don't know what noir films are, just imagine any story you can think of that's sort of normally about murders or detectives or, criminal elements with high contrast black and whites, lots of shadows, set at night, usually with a bit of rain and things like that. Those are noir films where they've got this very distinctive visual style. And I absolutely think that Rose Glass created a film that led into that, but also offered something new with the surreal elements and very much the feminist story within it. That is, we're seeing a female bodybuilder. I feel like I haven't seen this in a mainstream film ever. Really?
Yeah. Not. I think we're heading towards a time where they're not afraid to show powerful female characters anymore. I think one thing that I liked that this film did that a lot of other films don't is they're scared to show a like physically intimidating female, as compared to like quite often you see a powerful woman she's certainly fit and very healthy, but not as much muscular a lot of the time. And I thought it was great to see that because she was like as I raved about her performance and how she looked. So in that sense, I think you can say that there's certainly they put some respect towards female athletes and the way that they can appear. And then also you're talking about bodybuilding in particular, how these women can look just as like muscular as men. And if that's something that you're passionate about, there's no disrespect towards it because it's a fair ambition. And I don't think it takes away from any elements of being feminine.
Absolutely, and that's sort of what I wanted to touch on, where they applied that those new themes and things that we haven't quite seen before into, you know, the genre of noir that we've seen many times in the past as well, and a lot of them set in sort of the same time period as this film. And it just blended that so well that Rose clearly knew what she was doing in terms of the genre she was in, but also offering this new perspective and new characters we haven't really seen put to screen before. So I just have to commend her on that. And honestly, I thought the film was really good. My only criticisms would be, I'd probably have one, is that the main characters were flawed characters. And there were points where I was wondering, what should I root for?
That's fair.
And that's also the point, but I couldn't get emotionally attached to anyone. And that's when certain things happened, I was absolutely entertained, engrossed in the film and what was happening. But I'd say it was hard because I want to say the film was Kristen Stewart's.
Yes.
But I felt like it was very much focused on Katie as well.
Yeah.
And when their conflict happens, I didn't know necessarily who to root for. And obviously you know who the bad person is, the person you're rooting against.
Yes, yeah.
But I didn't know where emotionally, I didn't find myself that invested in the characters. I was fascinated by them and I enjoyed their performances and who they were. But I wasn't necessarily emotionally attached within the film.
Yeah, it's like one of those, the lesser evil is who you're rooting for. And not to say that they're evil, but like, because they are such flawed characters, which is always like great to see in cinema because it gives you nuance.
Yeah.
But it does make you hard to go like, I want this person to win and I want this to happen.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
So like by the end of it, you're kind of just like, oh, that's good, I guess. Like it's...
And I love the nuance of the characters and I wouldn't necessarily change that. I just think it was hard for me to get emotionally invested.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There were a lot of quite tragic and awful things happening to people, but, you know, none of them caused a tear. You know what I mean? And that's all I'm saying, where I found myself emotionally detached from these people, and that's what stops it from being an incredibly high rating. But honestly, from everything from the storyline, the situations they put the characters in were fascinating, and that's what a noir thriller should be. And I was thrilled and on the edge of my seat the whole time.
Yeah, I'll talk about the emotional part of it as well. I think it might have been some of the editing. Like they had some... I don't want to say choppy editing because I hate saying choppy. Like I just like it doesn't describe it well.
Really?
There was like at the start when they're running through the relationships and stuff like that, I feel like they rush to get to some of the major plot points, which doesn't make you attach as emotionally to it.
Maybe that's right. Yeah, I'll have to see that again.
Which I think, like when you run back to the parts that are meant to hit emotionally, you're just kind of like, I know these characters interact, I know they have a relationship, but like they don't give you time to explore it enough to become attached to it, like emotionally. At least for me, I'm sure some people attach to the characters really quickly. But yeah, in that sense, I feel like sometimes films, they grant the time to like relationships so that you can become attached, and then they, you know, pull the rug from underneath you and your heart falls out. But this film is just kind of like, we need to make it clear that these are relationships here, and then we'll pull the rug out and see what happens. And it might have just been like a matter of they didn't have the time to do it.
Yeah.
Or it could just be me not connecting with the characters like personally. But yeah, I just think that could be an explanation for it. That's certainly interesting.
I totally agree. I think you're right. I think it could be a combination of both of the things you mentioned. Thing is, the characters were so well played by Katie O'Brien and Kristen Stewart that I just think it came down to who I am and the world of bodybuilding and Kristen Stewart's character running a gym. Not that I can't connect with people who do different things to me, but it's just that there wasn't a lot for as me as a person to attach to with their experiences they're having. And I just think that was like one of those things where everything they did in the film was incredibly well done, but I probably want to see more about them.
You're not going to do a bodybuilding show? I can see you.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to put some weight on, but
yeah,
you'll get there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't see myself being in the gym that long. An hour's too much.
You got good calf genetics.
Thank you.
You actually do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think it's the soccer player in you.
It probably is.
Yeah.
But honestly, I can't do that long in the gym. I couldn't pull the hours that Katie O'Brien clearly has.
No, not while running a podcast.
Busy man. Busy man, yeah.
Yeah. I'll also just read through some of the reviews. I had to tune through some of them to find some that aren't MA 15 plus, trying to get the PG 13 edition. But I thought some of them were pretty funny. So we got one here that said, single-handedly brought back my nicotine cravings, then pulled up Tinder right afterwards, which I thought was a funny one.
That's a good one.
Some of the negative reviews that I think they're funny, and I think they're meant to be really insulting, but I just find them like funny in the sense that you're actually complimenting people. This is, some person said, She-Hulk A24's version. And then another person said, Mark Ruffalo ain't the true Hulk anymore. And they're trying to be insulting. I don't think that's insulting in any sense, because you're just saying that this, Katie O'Brien looked fantastic. She did exactly what her role was meant to be. She's a bodybuilder. Of course she's meant to look muscular. To those people who gave 1 stars with those reviews, you're intimidated. And that's all I have to say.
This film cannot be a 1 star.
No.
It's so well created and well thought through. And the one thing I'll understand is I think a lot of people would be surprised by the surreal elements.
Yeah.
That it doesn't follow a traditional way of showing a story.
No, not entirely.
I think some people that may not work for, and I totally get that, because some people want to go in and see a traditional thriller. But we should tell people that there are a lot of elements that kind of play with surrealism. As a film fan, I love them. I thought they were terrific and great choices by Rose Glass and when to include them.
Yeah.
And I thought it did so well at showing the internal thoughts and feelings of the characters. They were all so relevant to whose perspective of the scene we were in, which most of the time was Kristen Stewart's.
Yeah.
And it just did so well. I was really into that. Is there anything else you want to say before we get into the spoiler section?
I've got one more review that I found very funny.
Go for it.
It's actually a story, less than a review. They said 2 girls in the row before me had to change seats because of a love triangle, which I just think is very funny. But no, I agree with everything you said. I think it's a stylized film. It's very good. Tells a very compelling story to the extent that it can. I do agree that it didn't draw in enough emotion necessarily. And I'll have some more critiques when we go into the spoiler section, certainly. But no, all around a good film, and I would recommend going and seeing it if that's something that you're interested in. I think it's a very specific genre. I don't think it's for everyone. So I will make that clear. If you're not into like the big gory violence, and then if you struggle with sex scenes, maybe this isn't the film for you.
There's a lot of intense sequences in this.
If you're homophobic, don't watch it. Just don't watch it. Then you don't have to give a terrible review online. Like, if you just can't deal with it, don't watch it.
Yep.
Also, don't listen to our podcast. We don't need you.
Fair.
But yeah, all around a good film.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we'll go into the spoiler section unless you have anything else that you want to say.
No, just thoroughly enjoyed it. I'd recommend going to see this one in theaters if you can, but of course I think it would also translate really well to a home viewing experience as well.
Yeah, it could.
It's definitely one of those films that I think it would keep you on the edge of your seat at home. I don't see it being one that you'd want to check your phone in. There was no fluff, I'll put it that way. Everything felt very streamlined.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like it ran too long. Didn't feel like it was necessarily too short, but I would have liked to have seen more to connect with the characters in terms of their relationship. Yeah. But I just don't think it was overly long, and I wasn't bored, but I didn't necessarily think that I missed a lot either.
Yeah. Only bored when you couldn't go down the slide. The disappointment.
That was disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was sad on that. I actually sat on the plastic.
It bounced off it.
Because it was so dark in there, I couldn't see. By the way, this wasn't during the movie.
No. We were very respectful.
We were respectful of everyone in there. But yeah, and actually quite a reasonable turnout as well for a V Junior.
Yeah, I thought
showing
so. The guy in front of us hated the beanbag, so he was standing up every 3 minutes.
He was. Yeah. And I like the way he'd walk up and down the aisle as well. Yeah.
I think he was just struggling with his back. I can't blame him. I'd be the exact. I just wouldn't get up. I'd be stuck in the seat.
When you book the tickets,
does it say beanbag?
No.
Oh.
You booked the seats, and so that's why he probably booked.
That's so funny.
Because it was quite full.
Yeah.
He probably booked the front. It ended up being beanbags.
He just like walks in and looks down. He's like, "Oh God, my back."
I never thought about that. Oh, that poor guy.
Yeah, because I was getting mad at him, and then I was like, "Oh, he's probably like, I would get stuck in that beanbag. You would have to pull me out."
But that was a very fun experience seeing a very gory, very sex heavy.
I wanted like you to go down the slide
Noir.
halfway through, just like wee.
Yeah.
Been so
In
funny.
V Junior. Very fun experience, but we very much enjoyed it.
Anyway,
we'll get into the spoiler section now. Stay tuned for more. If you're leaving us, please don't forget to share us around and please give us any likes, comments. We'd appreciate it. Please subscribe as well.
And we'll give our claps at the end. So if you want to skip through and know our reviews, they'll be last 5-ish minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned for the spoiler section. Thank you.
Welcome back to the spoiler section, where we will discuss the spoilers of Love, Lies, and Bleeding. I know you got some fun facts here that you want to talk about. They do have to do with spoilers, so that's why we've saved it for now. Do you want to run through those ones to get us started?
Yeah, well, so for those of you who've seen it, a really key scene was the Dave Franco's death scene. So for those of you who know, it's JJ. He is killed after Katie O'Brien and Kristen Stewart's character find that he beat his wife. And Katie O'Brien takes it into her own hands to go and to JJ's house, which is Dave Franco's character, and actually kills him quite brutally. And there's some quite interesting parts about how they filmed it. And this is actually from Rose Glass, the director of the film. She said they actually showed the jaw, which, for those of you who've seen it, is quite horrifying.
Detached jaw completely.
Detached jaw completely, exactly. She actually said that they showed it one or two more times than they did in the final cut that we saw. And then when they got sort of feedback and notes on the film from test audiences and things like that, they found that people wanted to see it a select number of times in a more impactful way. So that was some of the thoughts that they got on it. So they showed it less, but they showed it in such key scenes. And the one that stands out to me is when they're putting the body in the back of the car and you see the jaw literally like flip open.
Yeah.
And that was actually apparently the CG artist who came up with the idea to actually show it flipping open. That wasn't a choice by Rose Glass, but she loved it and left it in the film. So to do that, they filmed a plate with Dave. So basically his face was normal, but they had lots of blood around the area that they're going to be cutting out. And that entire jaw scene was entirely digital. There wasn't any prosthetics or anything like that. It was entirely digitally created. And for quite a low budget film like this one, I thought it looked really good and was used well in the sequences that it was.
Yeah, I agree to a certain extent. One of the issue, I did think the CG was a little bit noticeable.
See, you say I didn't notice it, but maybe upon rewatching, I'd notice
I think what they've said when they cut it down, and I hate to I know it's her vision, and I don't want to say that she was wrong. I would have taken it out even more. I think there was only probably 2 key scenes that you needed to see it. You could see it in the dark. First of all, when she first did it, you can see something swinging, and I actually worked out it was a jaw. I was like, oh, he's lost his head. And then I think the shock reveal to his face when Kristen Stewart's character finds him on the floor. I think that's all they needed to show of it, because I think that 2-second glimpse of that was enough. And I think every time I saw it after that, I was comparing it and I can see the CG.
Did you see what Rose Glass said about that? That Kristen Stewart's reaction, Kristen Stewart didn't know it was that bad.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I don't know if you noticed, her reaction was a little bit muted to what I expected if I'd walk into the house and seen that.
Yeah.
But apparently, it works well with her character. And that's why Rose Glass left that take in.
Yeah.
Because apparently Kristen Stewart, after she saw the film, went, I had no idea it was going to be that bloody and gory.
That's interesting, yeah.
So it was interesting, right? But Rose Glass said it was so good because her character has actually been through this before. Now we're in the spoiler section, we can talk about it.
Not quite a jaw taken off, but...
No, but she was a sidekick to her father, so she'd been around death and
Robin
things like
to
that
Batman.
before. So her father, which is Ed Harris's character, Lou Sr., he actually used to have her accompany him on the awful, crime-related things he used to do. Not drug trafficking, gun trafficking.
Yeah. I think there was there drug trafficking as well?
Yeah, they put
both.
the guns in the crates.
And I'm saying was there drugs as well?
Oh,
I don't think
maybe.
it matters.
I don't
anyway.
think
he's a criminal.
Wasn't a main part.
He's a bad guy.
But the point was, so I thought that finding that out afterwards, I thought, great call by the director, because you got this really great character moment, but it was kind of an accident because Kristen Stewart didn't know the severity of the scene.
It's funny you say that, because I wouldn't have actually picked it as like a thing that's happened in the filming. I thought that was a fair reaction for her to have, and it was within her character. So it is a good call.
I just think that behind the scenes is quite fun to realise that those little choices influence such a major character performance. Was there anything else you want to say on Dave Franco's death before we skip to the end of the film? And give your thoughts on that?
I think it's definitely a warning to steroid use. Be careful of your strength, steroid users. It is terrifying what you can do sometimes. No, I think it was a well shot scene in the darkness. His character was like, you just hated him. So I like, that's one of the things where you're talking about like emotional, like how you attach to it. I was happy to see him die. He was one of the few
character was awful.
not nuanced characters. Sorry, I feel like he was just terrible. Like, and like that's obviously a conscious decision. They didn't want to give him any redeeming factors.
I thought the nuance part was actually the wife.
Yeah.
Who, you sort of realize, I've never had this perspective on people who are in relationships like this.
Yeah.
And how awful they are, but that there is still that love there, despite the horrible things that is being done to them. So
some Stockholm syndrome or something. Yeah, it's no, it is a shame. I think.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it is something that happens in real life. There is abusive relationships, and it is definitely tragic to see that love is such a powerful tool in this sense to hold someone to their torture, essentially, in this sense. I think it's an interesting part that I'm not sure if you're going to bring up later, that Kristen Stewart's character Lou actually ends up hurting her sister by the end of the film, as a means to get to the person she loved, which I actually thought was a really good like comparison, to show that like you can see they're not trying to justify hurting anyone for love, but you can see how someone who was otherwise morally uncompromised in that position, all of a sudden when presented with, and I'm going to say a severely more dire position, can hurt someone that they care about, as compared to JJ, Dave Franco's character, who was just a raging asshole. Yeah, essentially.
I thought the really interesting part about that part that you were talking about with the scene with the sister was I interpreted it as as much as she hated her father and wanted to be as far away from him as possible, he still had such a big influence on her.
Yeah.
And I think she knew that. And that's why there's so much nuance to her character, where there were scenes that were very much in the same vein as what Ed Harris had done as her father. And I found that with her sister, and even scenes with Katie O'Brien's character, where they were very much in the same vein. You could see the lingering effect that her awful childhood with Lou Sr. had on her.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was a really interesting aspect of both her father and her, that despite both, well, mainly Kristen Stewart wanting to stay as far away from her father as possible, he still has her claws in her and the actions that she makes.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that as well, because I feel like it shows some contrast in the characters at times as well. Now that I'm thinking back, you've added a very important point to me, and now I'm building on it.
No, go for it.
You actually see Lou Sr. be quite gentle with a lot of the characters that Lou has previously been like harsh with. Like you see when he picks up what's her name? The Katie O'Brien's character, Jackie. When you see you pick up Jackie after she's been arrested, he's actually like really patient with her in the car, and he like, while he's cunning and kind of, methodical, he's not at all like, outbursting and like violent in that sense. Like you can see he's plotting and he's doing terrible things at the same time, but he like shows her sympathy in some respects.
He's a very good manipulator.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And the same to the sister when he visits her in the hospital. He obviously is very kind to his daughter, who's basically comatose. And I think that's really interesting when you contrast Kristen Stewart's character, who is quite often like aggressive in a way, just because she doesn't have that same amount of patience. And like obviously she's got a lot of things that she's dealing with.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that's an interesting contrast where you can see how a character can be kind to be cunning, and then another character can be kind of cruel but have like good intentions behind it. I think that's maybe an interesting thing that I haven't really thought about until you brought up the comparison.
That's what I mean. I just thought that dynamic was one of the most fascinating part of the story for me. And even the way they're shot with the red, the flashbacks with the red light.
Yeah.
That very noir-esque. And I just thought that was really interesting.
Noir-esque.
So yeah, I think it's some important notes there. Should we talk about the end of the film before we wrap up our thoughts?
Yeah, we should. We kind of have to at this point. It's a bit different to the rest of the direction of the film, I think.
It is. So, the end of the film, we see Jackie and Lou at the house of Lou Sr. And so Lou has rescued Jackie, who was tied up in the house, found that from her sister, and now is going to essentially murder her father, or at least cause him harm. But she ultimately decides not to. But before this, we see a scene in which Jackie is massive, like Monsterverse-esque, ginormous.
Who wins, Jackie or Godzilla?
Jackie. And Jackie pins down the father like a bug, which I think was a really good callback to the visual motifs that we have seen from the father previously, where he's a bug collector and, he has pictures of bugs all around him. He has lots of different types of bugs.
There's also a cartoon that they're watching during one of the montages that has, it's like a Tom and Jerry type of cartoon, but I think it's like a big cat picks up a little mouse just to show like size comparison and stuff like that.
Exactly. So these sort of little motifs we've been getting throughout the whole film culminate in the scene where Jackie is large and holds down Lou Sr. and gives Lou's character the opportunity to kill her father, and she ultimately decides not to.
Yeah.
And then they both essentially drive off into the sunset.
Yes.
But unfortunately, there is Daisy, who is in the back of the car, who is not quite dead. And this is a very interesting part, I thought, was Lou actually ends up killing Daisy, obviously to protect her identity and her involvement in this whole thing, as they want to drive into the sunset. They can't leave Daisy alive unless they want to go down for all of this. But I thought it was interesting where I felt like in that moment, Lou kind of became the thing that she wanted to stay away from. Yeah. Where she, killed someone out in kind of the desert in New Mexico and dropped off the dead body on the side of the road. Very much like how her father did, and we learn a lot about that.
Yeah. Here's my maybe a criticism of the plot. You've brought up an interesting point, like the end there. I can see why they did it thematically. But if you're trying to get away with murder, you don't bring the body with you. I don't think it was a...
But she didn't know. Oh,
no. Here's what I would have done, okay? Daisy didn't see Jackie shoot her. She shot her in the back of the head. So she actually doesn't know who tried to murder her, and she knows that Lou is innocent because she was, they were hanging out. They were chilling. So what I would have done if I'm Lou, and I'm good at this stuff. I'm good at murder. Don't quote me on that. I would have left the body at the house where the now arrested dad is. Like, he can...
It was her house, though.
No,
it was Lou's house.
Where? What do you mean?
Where Daisy got shot.
Yeah, but she cleaned it all up. Just leave the body at his house. And then just have...
Oh, yeah, that's
And then
true.
he takes the fall for it because...
Yeah.
Like, even if Daisy survives, she doesn't know who shot her.
But do you think maybe it comes down to the fact that there's a lot of corrupt cops that are under...
It's the FBI. It's called the FBI, though.
Yeah, maybe.
It's the feds.
I see what you mean. I know what you mean. There's probably other ways they could have done it, but I think thematically you're right. It makes sense for that ending. And I also think it can make sense in that way. There are other ways it could have been done that probably make a bit more sense.
I'm just better at getting away with murder.
But that's also a thing to say. These people are thrown into a situation. Lou's character knows a little bit about it through her father, but, especially Jackie, she knows nothing. But let's talk about the surreal elements of her being really large and them kind of this quite fun scene of them holding hands, running through the clouds together as two giants.
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion, symbolizing the feeling of love and how they feel larger than life. And
really? Okay.
Yeah. And I think that's how I interpret it, where it's from Lou's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why it's showing that Lou views Katie O'Brien as this larger-than-life figure that holds all her love. maybe you have other thoughts.
Oh no, I can definitely see it that way. I think when you're talking about a lot of the surreal elements, you got to talk about some of the hallucinations that Jackie has.
Sure, please, yes.
And I think they're trying to like somehow reference like, you know, obviously drug abuse. She is using steroids in the film. That's part of her character. My understanding is that steroids don't really cause hallucinations. Roid rage is definitely a big issue. That's terrifying. Like,
does Lou take steroids?
No, not Lou. No.
Oh,
Jackie, sorry.
Jackie,
Yeah,
sorry,
like you see
sorry.
her, the
Yes.
reason that she's in prison after her bodybuilding show is she beats a woman because she goes nuts.
No, yes,
and like that is,
hallucinations, yeah.
roid rage is a, I can't say I know it too well, but it's a scary thing. People get angry with like those sort of hormones pumping through you. But the hallucination parts of it, I don't know if they're trying to attribute it to the drug abuse as much. I feel like from my understanding, it doesn't cause hallucinations. I think it might just be a surreal element that they're trying to add on to it.
I think so, but I see how it could be taken the other way as well.
Yeah, so I think it's good foreshadowing, but it's such a different type of like atmosphere to what you see at the end. Like most of her hallucinations are very like self-contained compared to them running through clouds naked together. Like, yeah, I think in that sense, I can see that I wasn't going to say like it's just random that they dropped this into the end because it's not random. Like you can see them trying to reference it, but I think it's just a little bit off key as compared to what they were doing previously, and I think that takes away from it a little bit.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, see, for me it added that's what I was sort of saying in non-spoilers. It could absolutely be hit or miss for anyone.
Yeah.
It was very much. I think it was an idea that may work, but I think Rose made a good decision in my opinion. But I totally understand it from your perspective.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Do you want to give your concluding thoughts and your rating?
Yeah, I will. So, I think for a lot of the reasons that I said, there was some issues with like attaching to it emotionally. I thought the surreal elements, they worked well to an extent. I don't think they were done perfectly.
Do you think maybe they pushed a bit too far at the end?
I think it's just a weird direction that they went in.
Okay.
I'm sure they can have a justification for it, but it just didn't work for me as a viewer. I enjoyed the film. I thought the acting was good. The story was mostly compelling. Yeah, all around it's a good watch. Just a couple of like issues here and there. It's certainly not a perfect film, and not all the elements are perfect. So all around, I think I'd give it 7 claps.
7 claps.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I agree with you on some parts. I ultimately thought the production elements of the film were fantastic.
Yep.
I thought the direction by Rose Glass was really stunning, and all the characters were nuanced, I guess, apart from JJ, and well acted by everyone involved.
Yep.
I will say the same similar criticisms. I didn't feel myself emotionally connected to any of the characters, it's sort of a nitpick, but that had a major impact on my emotional connections to the story. But I thought every other element in terms of the thriller, noir aspect hit all the right notes. It was a great genre film. I thought the bit that probably makes it a little bit better than a 7 for me was that the surreal elements did work all the way until the end.
Sure.
And I did even think the final shot, like of the camera going through the car where you see Katie O'Brien, who has been, sort of, her character's been thrust into a situation and she tries to forget about it by going into the bodybuilding competition. So she's kind of trying to turn a blind eye to the action she's committed while Lou tries to fix everything. Very much is encapsulated in that final scene where she's asleep while Lou is trying to, resolve a murder that was committed by Jackie.
Started by Jackie.
Yes. So ultimately I thought the ending felt very resolute to me. So I'm going to go for 8 claps.
Okay. Oh, that's fair.
8 out of 10.
I can see
me.
that. You're always nicer than I am. I'm bad cop, as we said.
But yeah, I thought it was a really great film. I'd recommend anyone to go out and see this one. But it is a very mature film.
Yes.
Lots of sex, lots of violence, lots of gore. But ultimately very interesting watch and a lot of nuanced characters. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Clap Podcast. We appreciate it. Please don't forget to subscribe, share us with your friends and family. We really appreciate all the support we can get.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah. I agree.
Anything you wanted to add?
No, nothing. I think we've done it all. Check out our Instagram if you can.
We'd also like to say a big shout out and thank you to Kate Jeffries, who's helped us out with some of the Instagram posts that we've seen on social media.
Yes.
So we appreciate that.
She's killing it.
She's definitely helped us and given us a lot of ideas. So we appreciate all the support in that. Thank you so much, and check us out next week for a new episode of the show. Thank you so much.
Bye.